although I might go a little bit more to talk about a little bit about me, a little bit about my local Probus Club, Dunmow District Probus Club, and a little bit about our town of Great Dunmow. So, starting off with me, here's the UK. Those who heard Stan's talk about his life will remember that he started off in Glasgow, then moved up to, I think it was Banchory near Aberdeen. In my case, I was born in Aberdeen, but we all moved down to Glasgow. I always describe myself as Glaswegian, but I've had a few people over the years say to me that I can't be from Glasgow because they can understand me. They've then often asked me if I was born there, and when I say, well, no, I was born in Aberdeen, they sort of knowingly say, ah, that's why. And I've never had the heart to tell them that I was 5 months old when we moved down to Glasgow. So after university, I moved down to Daventry, which is in the Midlands, where I joined Ford, the car company, met my much better half, married her, and moved up to Lincolnshire, to a place called Ancaster. We spent about 18 months there, and I spent 18 months telling people that I lived in Ancaster. No, not Lancaster, Ancaster, which was rather frustrating. So after Ancaster, we moved back to Daventry again. Before we then spent 2.5 years living in Cologne. This was in 1989. We signed the contract on our apartment in Cologne the same day that the wall came down, and we had a very enjoyable, very Kölsch laden evening celebrating both facts. So 2.5 years in Cologne, and then, well, guess where we moved to? Yep, we moved back to Daventry again. That was in 1992, and then in 1995 we moved to Great Dunmow, where I am now, and which you'll hear a bit more about soon. So one of the things about Ford is that they let people have 2 days a year doing something in the community. So some people used to go and dig ditches in country parks, others used to paint old folks' homes, and I used to teach parents and grandparents of primary school children how to use computers. And I absolutely loved it. So when I retired, I decided to keep on helping with technology, and that's what I do now. I teach people how to use computers. I have been doing it in classrooms face to face, but obviously since last year that's not been happening. So just before this meeting, I was in a Zoom meeting teaching people again how to do things. And it's because of this that I found out about Probus. I went to help a friend's dad with his computer. There were all sorts of papers on his desk about Probus, so I asked him about it, and consequently he invited me to the next meeting. And I made a stupid mistake. Now, some of you have probably made the same mistake in Probus or other groups, but what I did was I suggested something. So I suggested that we could use technology more. I'd watched 2 people at that first meeting hand out pieces of paper to 50 odd people and say to them, could you fill in this form and send it back to me, post it back to me when you get the chance. And then they've posted it out to other people, and then eventually they've got the things back again, and they've then been able to collate the responses. So I stupidly said, I think you could do this more, you could use technology more. I was invited to the next committee meeting where I made my suggestions to the committee of what the committee could do, and I thought that's great. the then president said, "Patrick, I think these are fantastic, and I think it's really good that you're going to join the committee." And this sort of confused me because we hadn't had that conversation at all. But I thought, they meet 3 times, 4 times a year. It can't be that difficult. So that's okay. And then Charles said, "Oh, I think we ought to give you a job title as well. We'll call you the IT manager." And I thought, that's not going to make any difference. I've still only got meetings 3 or 4 times a year, so that's okay. Until afterwards, one of the other committee members said to me, "By the way, you do know that if you have a job title, it means that whenever we have meetings, you have to stand up and give an update about what's happening in your world." So I learnt. I should have learnt years ago, but I finally did learn. So this is us. This is the most recent photo that we've had of the club. So Dunmow District Probus Club. We have a fairly basic website that I look after. Little bit about us. Well, it's a men's club. For those for whom that is a surprise, I would just remind you of all the ties and all the ugly faces here. It's very definitely a men's club. So we're a men's club. We've got 65 members, and that's the maximum we're going to have. And there's a very obvious reason why, which you'll see soon. It started in 1989, so from the sounds of it, it's very slightly older than your club in Newmarket. So I think we're up to 32 years this year since we started. We meet on the first Wednesday of the month for lunch and a talk, although I should slightly refine that. So since July, we've had monthly meetings with a talk, but sadly without lunch, all via Zoom, so a bit like yourselves. We've had a number of homes for the club over the years, all around Dunmow, so that was a starting point, and then we moved Bushel and Sack back to Great Dunmow, and we're currently in the farmhouse inn in a little village between Great Dunmow and a place called Thaxted. And it's very nice. They do a good job for us, and we have this room here that we use, which you can obviously tell is quite old. A strange colour scheme that they have in here, and there are some more tables over to the left here. But if we had all 65 members in here, we would all be crushed in here. So we normally have about 10 people who, for whatever reason, can't come along. And that's okay. We can fit that sort of number in, but we couldn't have too many more. So that's why we have a maximum of 65. So just in terms of where we are, so this is the southeast of England. Here's London down here. This is us here. We're in Great Dunmow here. And just in case there's any doubt about things, this isn't you. So this is Newmarket, but not your Newmarket. And a little bit up here and to the right is where Shirley is, I think, at the moment. So not too far away either. Back to Great Dunmow, an aerial view of Dunmow. It's a market town. It's built on an old Roman settlement, and Dunmow means meadow on the hill. There's a population of about 9,000, and that is expanding quite a lot. So I thought I'll stick in a couple of photos of Dunmow that are quite memorable. So this is the Doctor's Pond. It's so called because apparently 2 doctors used to keep their supply of leeches there. Fortunately, those doctors are now retired. And it's also famous, at least locally, for being the place where the first self-righting lifeboat was tested. According to Peter Street, who is one of our members, long before the RNLI was formed, he invented this boat that was essentially a shell with airbags around it, and he tested models of it on the Doctor's Pond. When he made his first efforts at full-scale boat, somebody pinched it and he never got it back again. Well, that's Essex for you. So this is the High Street of Great Dunmow with its intersection with Marketplace. There's you can see here the 15th century town hall, and this is from the other end of the High Street, looking from our war memorial back again. So you'll see that there's lots of old things about Dunmow and lots of new things. And the other thing about it is we have a town crier, which in this day and age might seem a little bit strange and out of place, but there are lots of things about Dunmow which are quite old, not only the buildings but some of the things that happen here. And the most well known of those, which I'm sure even some of you might have heard of, is this thing called the Dunmow Flitch trials. And I'm just going to read out some of the blurb which comes from the website. So it exists to award a flitch of bacon to married couples from anywhere in the world if they can satisfy the judge and jury of 6 maidens and 6 bachelors that in 12 months and a day they have not wished themselves unmarried again. So quite a strong sort of statement there. This started around 900 years ago. It's thought to be about the 11th or 12th century. It's held every 4 years. A reference to the Dunmow Flitch can be found in The Wife of Bath's Tale within Chaucer's 14th century Canterbury Tales. So we know it's at least that old, but it's thought to be older than that still. And the prize is a flitch of bacon. So if you'd like to learn more, have a look at that website, dunmowflitchtrials.co.uk. Now I know you're all very polite and you're therefore not saying what the heck is a flitch of bacon, because it's not something that I'd heard of before now. And this, if you can see it here, is a flitch of bacon being carried by these men. It is basically a pig which is cut down the middle, half a pig that goes to any of the winners. If you look on that website, you'll see a video about the last trials that took place, and it's really quite interesting. So that was my last slide. That's it. I don't know how I've done timing wise, but hopefully I've kept it more or less to the 10 minutes.